I'm wonderful. It's so good to be here. Yeah, up until next year, I hope I become associate. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that would be. It still has from fair. Who's playing them in the movie? There are several characters, but I think the two that we need to know is Bill Dowdle or William Bill Dowdle, who is I feel like that we've got to say that he's LDS. He goes from Utah to Malad and um, gets into some trouble there. The story is told by Charles Wagamont in this book called Six Decades Back. And he writes the story because he is the guy who kills Bill Dowdle. And the other person that you need to know is Charlie Wagamont, or Trotter, sorry, Charlie Trotter, who plays an instrumental role in Bill Dowdle going to prison. Yep. So Bill Dowdle is kind of this fascinating character. I think he embodies the American West, which we can talk about later. But he is sent to kind of help build the LDS church in Malad. And so he goes to Malad. He gets himself into some trouble, which we don't really know a lot about. But we know that he steals a horse outside of Malad and finds out that that is the federal marshals. It's a federal marshal's horse, and he runs to Utah, presumably to his family, is where we think that he's going. He has a father that is, I think it's his father, it might be a brother, who is a mission president who kind of encourages him to turn himself in, which he does. Now, this is 1873. Turns himself in. He's extradited back to Idaho, and he spends 2 years in the state penitentiary for uh, grand larceny because he stole a horse. Now, this is where we start to get the other characters. He leaves. When he gets out 2 years later in 1875, he steals another horse to get back home. He doesn't realize it, but the horse he steals is the sheriff's horse from Boise. And he rides that horse to Stricker Ranch outside of Twin Falls, south of Kimberly. And when he comes into Stricker Ranch, up to the Stricker store, Charlie Trotter notices that that horse is the sheriff's horse. And so um, they grab Bill Dowdle and they detain him in one of the two cellars behind the Stricker store. They put him in there, and then by Charlie Wagamont's account, people would walk by the cellar and call him names, would like razz him and tell him that he was a bad person and make fun of him, and he just got angrier and angrier. And a couple days later, the sheriff from Boise comes down and takes him back to the state penitentiary. And he spends 2 years from 1875 to 1877 in the old pen before he gets out. And this time, being a little bit smarter, takes a stage to Stricker Ranch, back to Stricker. I can stop there and or I can keep going if you'd like. Okay. Yep. Yes. Yep. Yeah, for him to be asked to go to Idaho, it's it's not unheard of, for him to build. In fact, a lot of people were being asked to go to different areas and really build up the church as an organization. Like that was the plan. It's really why a lot of there's a lot of LDS hate and restrictions placed on systemic restrictions placed on LDS people at the time because they're being sent up to Idaho to really solidify more ground for the church, buildings, people. I mean, they're supposed to be pushing the church, proselyting in this area, and so it's not really unheard of. Um, what's unheard of is to have a guy who is sent here uh, get himself into so much trouble. No, and we get the story, like I said, from Charles Wagamot writing it in 6 decades back, and he does not know Bill Dowdle previously. And so what we have is really the story about him stealing the horse, being extradited back to Idaho from Utah, and then making it to Stricker, and then coming back the next time, the second time to Stricker. That's really what we know. And I've done quite a bit of research trying to figure out like what exactly was he doing, and was he running with the wrong crowd or whatever. Ultimately, after both of these things, he is what looks like excommunicated by the LDS Church, and so I don't exactly know that maybe he was doing other things that resulted in that excommunication, but he does get himself into some trouble down in Malad. Yeah, so Malad is a Malad, the town of Malad, is just north of the or the Utah border, and so it actually is a good spot for people to, especially LDS people, to like cross into Idaho, set up camp. The town is not too far away from like Tree Mountain. In fact, if you're coming from Utah, you drive through Tree Mountain and then head north, and I don't know, it's not too far between before you get to Malad. And so it's really like the next stop. And this is not unheard of because you see the same thing that goes on over in like Franklin County. If you go up through Logan, Utah, and then get to Franklin, Preston, those areas up the other side, they'd also had been people had been sent there uh, to set up the church to really solidify the religion in Idaho. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, that's exactly right. And what's crazy about that is that they're seen as a voting bloc, um, and for some reason not not really seen as different politically from other people in Idaho at the time, but it really comes down to that polygamy issue. It seems to be that most Idahoans and most people across the country are not happy with the polygamy portion of it, and so they're stripped of their voting rights. They can't hold office, and then yeah, it does take Grover Cleveland to kind of change that. But you see quite a bit of Mormon persecution in the early years of Idaho. Yeah, it definitely could. It definitely could be part of the trouble. I mean, it it doesn't seem it seems like from accounts that I've read from family members that maybe he wasn't the most devout LDS person. And that's where I wonder if the trouble he's getting into is illegal, not necessarily religious persecution. Now he's fighting people. I think it seems like that maybe it was something else. Yeah. Yep, he returns to Stricker. He is really mad at Charlie Trotter. And this is going to get maybe a little bit confusing, but you have Charlie Trotter, who is running the Stricker store at the time. And when Bill Dowdle comes back, Charlie Trotter is sick. And so Charlie Trotter is at home, not well. And Charlie Wagamot, who writes 6 decades back, uh, is running the store. And he's a young 19, 20-year old guy who's running the Stricker store for Charlie Trotter. And he tells Bill Dowdle when Bill shows up that he cannot. He's like, I can't, I don't, Charlie is not here. And Bill says, I'm here to collect. I'm here to kill Charlie Trotter. And he says, well, you'll have to wait because he's ill. And so Bill Dowdle goes out, by all accounts, sits on the front of the Stricker store. I always think this is interesting because the Stricker store porch is not that big, but he sits outside on the Stricker store and begins drinking. And the more he drinks, the more he agitated he gets, and he pulls out his 6 shooter and starts taking shots around town. Now, there are a couple of different accounts here. One says that he killed the blacksmith. Another account says that he didn't kill anybody, but all of the town like kind of spread and was hiding from Bill Dowdle. Regardless, somebody's shooting around town. Not a good time. And so Charlie Walgamot levels a gun out the window and shoots and kills Bill Dowdle. The people of Stricker or of the Rock Creek Station kind of come out. I think of them almost like the Wizard of Oz and kind of the Munchkins, kind of like sneaking out after the Wicked Witches, or after the witch is killed. But they kind of like come out of the woods and out around the houses and the buildings there, see that he's gone, and they carry his body around town, singing this like song about Bill Dowdle and how now he's dead, and then they throw him into Rock Creek Canyon. And I've got to be clear that it's not Rock Creek Canyon proper like we have here in Twin Falls. Up there, it is more like a ravine. It's not really that big. It's not very deep. It's like a canal kind of at that point. But they throw his body in and they leave it there for a few hours before Charlie Wagamot says people start to feel bad. They didn't want to desecrate his body, so they come back and they get Bill Dowdle and they bury him in the Rock Creek Cemetery, which is just west of the store there. In fact, there is his headstone, which I have pulled up here. And in his headstone, it says William Dowdle, a convicted horse thief who was slain when he tried to take vengeance on the people of Old Rock Creek for his capture in 1875. Um, what I do love about Charlie's and Charlie, I think, is exaggerating in some cases, and people have said that Charlie Wagamot was exaggerating in a lot of the stories he was telling. But he says that when he shoots Bill Dowdle stands, grabs his heart, spins, and says, "So it goes in the days of 49," and falls dead, which is interesting because it's 1877. So I don't know why he would say "so it goes in the days of 49," but that's the story. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Charlie Walgamot, yeah, Charlie Walgamot shoots him, but Bill Dowdle is actually there to kill Charlie Trotter. Yes. I love it. I love this story so much. I love telling this story. I have to provide maybe some clarification. A few years ago, a researcher from Idaho State and I, his name is Philip Holman. Philip Holman and I were doing this project and working on it, and we got a cease and desist letter from the Dowdle family. And they said that we could not tell or publish the story, and when we came back and worked through it, they said, look, you can tell the story as long as you tell this other piece. And that is that they herald Bill Dowdle uh, as a hero. They said that he saved multiple children at the Battle of Bear River, where the cavalry was called in to subdue Native Americans who were there, um, just really trying to interact and buy things from a fort that was put up by the Mormons there outside of Preston on the Bear River. And Phil and I have done quite a bit of research trying to figure out how true that story is. We've not found any information on whether Bill Dowdle was at the Bear River massacre or not. Um, but I think suffice it to say the family believes that Bill Dowdle is a hero. So just like the other stories that we have talked about, there is this guy in Bill Dowdle who is a little bit of an outlaw, a little bit of a hero, and you get this like back and forth on who is Bill Dowdle, and that's where I think it really falls into an American West story, like outlaw and hero, kind of that same thing that we see over and over and over again of these outlaws who are kind of robbing from the rich and giving to the poor, and these kind of crazy stories that we see in the American West. Yep, agreed. Mhm. Yep. I completely agree. I think that Bill Dowdle is such a fun story. Um, the idea of vengeance makes it an American West story. The idea of the horse thievery that happens. I mean, if you just watch some of the old westerns that you and I talk about frequently, but right, like the True Grit, the original or the new one, you get horse thievery there. You get vengeance taking place. These are American West themes that we see over and over and over again, and I just love that story. Or that idea of these themes coming back that really make it a quintessential American West story. Hmm. Yep. Yeah, exactly. And I just think that that's such a great, um, Actually, the way that you just explained that, I think, is a great way to look at maybe the American West story and the way that we do that. Because I mean, there's stories all over. We tell stories. We see lots of different cultures that use oral histories as a way to explain their history or tell their history. And you're right that the American West is no different. We just see it in usually some sort of outlaw who could be a hero, may not be a hero, but that myth kind of persists, and I love that idea. Yeah. I don't know exactly what it is that makes the American West look like that, other than I think we like to see people who are just like us. We want to see people who embody that that piece of vengeance that we wish we could take, but also knowing that we're good people and that, given the right situation, we probably are always going to do what's right. And we're going to save some kids from the Bear River massacre, right? We're going to, but we may go into a town and shoot some people up because we are not happy with them. And so I don't. I think it's that these stories of the American West embody who we see ourselves as. It really is a reflection or a mirror back on ourselves. And that's why they continue to persist today. You and I had the conversation the other day about modern Westerns versus historic spaghetti Westerns. And, I think that there is a resurgence of these Western movies because we do like those stories that reflect who we are. One of the new ones that I love is the Magnificent Seven because you can pick any of those characters to be one of those guys that reflect who you are. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Yep. Yep. Exactly. I just I don't know that I like any other region. And the more study I do about the American West, the more things I find that I love here. I'm just grateful that my job is such that I get to study this place that I revere so highly. And I just think that the American West is such a great place. It has these great stories, and we're talking about outlaws, but other stories that we could continue to tell. The American West embodies it all, which is why I argue that the American West is where we get our American identity from. So yes, no, you're spot on. I agree. I agree with that. So uh, the American West, by far my favorite place to study, and it's got some great characters. And Bill Dowdle happens to be one of the best for the Magic Valley. I don't know, but I literally was just having this conversation the other day with my brother-in-law. We were in Colorado, and I just said, there's been several different movies that have been shot here. It seems that Colorado is one of those places too that uh, gets a lot of fanfare for being an American West, uh, stereotypical state, uh, but Idaho gets overlooked, and I don't really understand it, except that I continue, and this is what I said the other day, I continue to believe that it is Idahoans that are not sharing those things. It's Idahoans who are more quiet about it. They don't want they don't want people here. They don't want any fanfare, right? They're very it's about grit, toughness, and we don't talk, right? We're not going to talk about those things. And so I love that idea of Idaho and the way in which they're not sharing those stories because they don't want you here, right? We're Idahoans, we don't need anybody else here. I do think it's fascinating because we get a lot of stories from Oregon and Washington as well about outlaws, and it just doesn't seem to fit in the redwoods or in Northern California or up into Oregon and Washington with uh, the pine trees as it does in the Southwest where it looks more Western. So I don't know. I like it. Yeah. Well, and I don't know what the total that you got when you left prison. I know later in like the 40s and 50s out of the old pen they gave you like $12 and a new suit. But I think in the 1870s you were not, I don't think they were giving you any money. So I think he makes it too stricker and maybe doesn't have anywhere else to go. And so that's why he's like, well, shoot, I came to do this one thing, maybe I stick around and wait and take care of that because I can't go anywhere. What could he have done? Like, what could he have done better? Maybe. Well, because I guess he was not the nicest person, according to Charlie Wagamot. Uh, when it comes to uh like them going by, I mean, it didn't seem like they were the greatest people either because they kept going by the cellar and yelling at him 2 years earlier, and he just spent the last 2 years in prison being so mad about it apparently. But uh it seems like by all accounts that he was not a great guy, so he's mad, maybe belligerent, and the more he drank the more belligerent he got, and then taking shots around town seems like that. Yeah, you'd be pretty frustrated with that guy. So I do find it fascinating. And again, it could be that Charlie Wagamot is exaggerating here in this book when he tells this story, but them parading him around and singing kind of this little song and then throwing his body into Rock Creek. That, yeah, I know. I'm also fascinated by that, and I don't know why they would do that. Yeah, I agree. I think it might be the best. We could turn it into a musical. It could just be a musical, honestly. Um, I don't remember that he gives the song that they were singing. Uh, he just says that I think that they sang a little song as they paraded his body around. So it's not really that there's even, like like the lyrics. There's not really any lyrics to it, I think, as far as I recall. I don't I don't know, probably something about how bad he was and that it was good that he had gotten shot, I assume. Yeah, is that what it is? Well, I'd guess that they were probably singing he was probably singing a Morgan Wallen song, "I Am the Problem" or something. If I'm the problem, then you're the reason. Yep. Yes. I'm not plugging my PhD today. I'm just about done with a dissertation on how we can teach critically while also instilling hope in democracy, which is just about finished. And the data looks great. And we can maybe talk about that in a future date. I will be speaking at the Twin Falls Historical Society in February on the Diamond Field Jack story, which is great. And I'm excited about that. So outside of that, no, things are great. And I always appreciate you asking me to be a part of this podcast. I think you're doing great work. I love listening to it every week. Man, you've got such a great lineup of great historians from the state of Idaho. And I just keep wondering when we're all going to run out of stories. I hope not. Awesome. Thank you.